Okay, today we're going to take a look at a tutorial on how to draw the full-scale version of this whole guide we have here. And what we're going to have to first do is start off with a light pencil and create some construction lines based on all these dimensions we're given. So you want to make sure your paper is straight, or you're at least starting off with a straight edge, so that way your drawing isn't crooked. And the first thing I'm always going to do is take a look at my overall dimensions, right? My width and my height here. And my width is 3.5 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my scale, my architect scale. I'm going to set it down here level with this bottom of the border. And then what I can do is I can measure over 3.5 inches. I'm going to start at my 0. I'm going to make a light line all the way to 3.5. Like so. And so I have a 3.5 inch line there, and now I want to make a 2-inch tall line. Well, this is where you want to use guidelines, and you want to take, and I'm going to use one of my triangles. I'm going to line it up on the edge of this border and make it meet the guideline I just created for the 3.5 inches. I'm going to make a vertical line there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And these are just guidelines we're creating. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure up 2 inches on those. Starting at the bottom, and I'm just going to make a little tick mark to show where that 2 inches is. So once I've created the tick mark, right here and here, that's 2 inches up, I'm going to connect that. And that gives us a rectangular box that is 3.5 by 2. So the next thing we're going to do is make some more guidelines. We're going to find our center on both directions so that we can find the center of the circle. Well, half of 3.5 is 1 3/4. So I'm going to make a tick mark there on the top and bottom line. And then I'm going to connect those using a center line type. And that's a long line, short dash, long line. I'm going to do the same thing the other way. So half of 2 inches is 1 inch. I'm going to connect those. Long line, short line, long line. So now we've got some crosshairs showing in the middle. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the guidelines for these notch outs right here. And these dimensions are shown over here. They're a 1/2 inch tall by a 1/2 inch deep. And we'll first make those notch outs. So we're going to create a guideline for that and a guideline for here. So I'm just going to measure up a 1/2 inch on both sides. And then we're going to create a light line to connect those two. And the order in which I'm doing this is to give you clean and straight lines. If you choose to measure one side and don't measure the other, you'll notice your lines may become crooked. So I'm measuring a 1/2 inch from the top as well. And I'm going to make a guideline there. So now we've created a line that represents where we'll be showing the edges there. Right, these little notch outs. And they're also, if we saw, they're 1/2 inch in. So I can make a 1/2 inch mark on the bottom and top. These are all guidelines. You're using a very light pencil to do this. And I'll connect all my lines. Sometimes you may want to double check. Like I notice I measured there. Make sure that's square. Okay, so now I've created this kind of gridded object, but it has all the shapes we'll need, right? We're basically going to follow along this edge, and we're going to darken this back in. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie to help make it pop out, but you can use a 2B or a 4B, or you could just bear down a little harder. And I'm going to start from the top and work my way down to the bottom. Paying attention to what I'm drawing. And you'll notice with all the guidelines, all I had to do is take my time to measure out and then draw the correct lines. And I'll show you how to add the dimensions momentarily. Now I've got my outside borders, and I want to draw the circle on the inside. Well, that right there says diameter equals 1/2. Whenever you see that symbol, that means diameter. So when we look at our circle templates, we want to find the 1 1/2 inch. That's here. Right, this one here. And we're going to line up our crosshairs to match the center lines. So those center lines you made are important. Make sure your dots line up with your horizontal line and your vertical line. Take your time. And you have your shape as shown. Now you can come back after this and you can add in all of your dimensions, and to do those we want to replicate them exactly as shown. You'll take your time to show these with the arrows properly. And I'm just showing all those dimensions real quick. If you have your extension lines or your dimensions showing, you want to keep those all in line. Notice my overall dimension is the furthest dimension out. And I'm going to darken in my center lines too to match this drawing exactly. And finally, we'll do our overall dimension. And we'll tidy that up with the last little dimension to show the depth of those little notch outs. And there you have your finished drawing, completely mimicking all of the smaller view, full scale drawing.